Hey, Karen,
Yes.
one of the areas of exploration for the show has been health, right? So we've dived into energy healing modalities. We've dove into intuitive healings. We've investigated light and sound healing. We've done fitness through the moon cycles. We've even visited the harmonic egg.
Yes, we have.
Did you know that one of the fastest growing means of improving our health is something called Ayurveda?
I did not know that.
Well, do you know what it is?
I have heard of it, but I do not know it well enough to explain what it is. I
Well,
have an idea, an inkling.
There are definite questions along with it. What is it? How do you use it to improve your health? And most importantly, how does it work? Well, if you stick with us for the next few minutes, we'll give you everything that you need to know about this astounding modality. My name is Will.
And I'm Karen.
And unlike Mulder and Scully,
we both want to believe.
so we've embarked on a journey of discovery.
We've talked to people deeply entrenched in the spiritual and metaphysical world.
We've thrown ourselves into weird and wonderful experiences. I even joined a coven of witches.
And wait, you joined a coven?
Yep, all in the interest of finding something
Anything.
that will prove that there's something beyond this physical,
three-dimensional world we all live in.
This is the Skeptic Metaphysicians.
Welcome to the Skeptic Metaphysicians. I'm Will.
And I'm Karen.
We are the hosts for this particular journey of discovery. Ayurveda is an alternative medicine system with historical roots in the Indian subcontinent. Now, it's heavily practiced in India and Nepal, where around 80% of the population report using it. But it's now taking the Western world by storm. And here to help us better understand the Ayurvedic lifestyle is Catherine Gagnon. Now, she's an emotional alchemist, mind-body healing practitioner. She's a master NLP transformational coach who works with people who are tired of being tired and worried. Does that ring a bell, Karen?
No, not at all.
Well, it does to me. Now, the cool thing is that she can hear, see, and feel the emotional and physical energy leaks in people.
Oh, wow.
And she helps them plug these leaks. You know what happens as a result?
No, I don't.
They regain sustained physical and emotional energy.
I'm sorry. I'm just picturing you all plugged up because you got a lot of leaks, baby.
You know what? You're right. You're right. It's almost, I feel like a pincushion after this.
Does she have a lot of corks?
But anyway, she helps people sustain physical and emotional energy. They recover faster from illnesses. They gain mental clarity, self-confidence, feel more at peace with themselves, happier in their relationships. And she's currently pursuing a doctorate in natural medicine and studying the ancient wisdom of Siddha Veda. And I know I butchered that, but it stems from Ayurvedic medicine. So let's just welcome to the show, Catherine Gagnon. Catherine, thanks so much for spending some time with us today.
Yay, thank you for having me. That was quite the introduction.
Yes, it's a mouthful of marbles at sometimes. So let's just set the table right off the bat. Can you fix all the errors that I made in my introduction? What is Ayurveda?
First of all, there's nothing to fix because you're not broken. But Ayurveda is really an ancient science of medicine. Like you said, it's been used in the Asian subcontinent for many, many years. And what's interesting is it's kind of like traditional Chinese medicine, which is about 6,000 years old. Ayurveda is about 5,000 years old. We have Greek medicine that's about in these timelines as well. We could look at indigenous medicine and find some similar timelines. So what's interesting about Ayurveda is that it's the official medicine that's being taught in universities in India. You know, they also learn Western medicine, but they have to learn Ayurveda. And Siddha Veda, which is the program that I'm studying, it stems from Ayurveda. It's about 2,500 years old, and it goes back, according to the teachings, it goes back to Buddha's physician, which was Jivaka. And it's very interesting because Siddha Veda was only taught from master to student. So there was one master, and each master lived about 135 years, 125 years. Yes.
Nuh-uh.
Yeah, totally. And so it was like one master teaching one student, and the master would give the student the manuscripts, which are about 2,000 years old. And so you'd imagine these papers are really, kind of old, and you need to protect them. And the joy of being able to study that is that there was a master healer, Dr. Narang in India, who made it its mission to bring ancient wisdom to every home on the planet. And what I really like about Ayurveda and Siddha Veda, so Siddha Veda goes a little bit deeper than Ayurveda, because Siddha Veda encompasses more, yes, the physical, but it also brings the emotional and the spiritual aspect of health. But all in all, what this is about, it's about bringing back to balance. Ayurveda is the science of life. And so I come from a background of Western medicine. I was an ER nurse practitioner. I went and worked with First Nations and outpost nursing station in Quebec. And in Western medicine, we're very much about fighting the illness and eradicating the cancer. And it's very aggressive kind of medicine, eradicating the symptom. But in Ayurveda, it's a little bit like traditional Chinese medicine. It's looking at the imbalances that are creating the symptoms. And then when the imbalances are continuing, then it creates an illness. So it's kind of a spectrum. An illness doesn't appear in a blue sky, right?
Right.
And so the philosophy is, how can we rebalance each element of the body so that the person can have optimal health, optimal joy, optimal happiness, optimal relationships, optimal purpose. And so it's a very holistic frame of mind of how to look at things. So
the way I understand it is that Western medicine really treats the symptoms, whereas Ayurveda and those types of medicine modalities, for lack of a better word, really treat or are trying to treat
The cause?
the cause, the origin of the disease.
Mhm.
And that's the main difference, right?
it is the main difference. And that's what I realized when I was a nurse practitioner, and I started to feel misaligned with the medical paradigm, because I was there prescribing pills for chronic diseases that I knew were not only preventable, but reversible with the correct lifestyle, mindset, foods, all of that. And so what's been really interesting for me is to draw on so many different modalities. Siddha Veda is one, functional medicine, Western medicine, Chinese medicine, and to just kind of pick the best out of all.
I like
It's-
So when you mention chronic illnesses, can you give us some examples of the types of things when you say are reversible? Are you talking like cancer kind of things, or are you talking something simple as high blood pressure, for example?
Most illnesses are illnesses of lifestyle. And if you give the body the proper conditions, food, sleep, exercise, the body has everything it needs to bring itself back to balance. It just needs the proper conditions. The body wants to come back to homeostasis. So I can't make statements of saying, oh, yeah, you can cure cancer with your thoughts. It's not what I mean. But every illness, in my opinion, is reversible by correcting the imbalance that created it. Now, it depends how far you are on the spectrum of the imbalance, right?
Sure.
And so that will determine a little bit of the not the aggressiveness, but the urgency of the treatment and the intensity of the treatment, right? But yeah, illnesses are reversible, especially in the first signs and symptoms that the body has something that's out of balance. And we've all had that: headaches, bloating, pain, insomnia, anxiety. These symptoms are all little red flags that something is out of balance and needs our attention.
What if
She's reading me like a book.
I was going to say, what if you check?
Insomnia, bloating, I got anxiety, I've got all of those.
What if you check all the boxes, right? That's
So we live in an environment that is so heavily polluted. I mean, the water is, you have to filter it and then filter that because it's so full of chemicals and toxins, and the same with the air. How can we really get all of that out of our system? Because even now the food that's being grown in the soil has got to have this stuff in it.
Totally. And Karen, you're right. We haven't lived in that much of a polluted environment in human history. So when we talk about cleansing and detoxing, sometimes you hear opponents of natural medicine going like, what's we don't need that. But in fact, our natural cleansing organs get very easily overwhelmed because of the amount that we have coming in. And so, according to Ayurveda, the source of any illness, any symptom, any pain, any malaise, any illness is a result of two things: the accumulation of toxins in the body and the appropriateness of your digestive fire. So if your fire is too weak, think about if you have a fire, you're trying to start a fire and you're putting a big log and all it does is it's smoking and it doesn't catch on fire. Or if you're putting water on your fire and then it just kind of burns and leaves this soot, right? So imagine the digestive system being it has to be the proper fire, not burn too much, but not enough. And so with the toxins, so we have to work on both sides, basically. And with toxins, there are so many things that are inevitable. I mean, the air we breathe, definitely, air purifiers in our house. With food, I can't emphasize this enough, eating organic foods. There's a more and more of an acceptance nowadays, but it used to be like, oh, this is just an expensive way of selling food. No, it's actually importing less toxins. And if you're thinking about somebody who wants to lose weight, when we're importing toxins, like chemicals in the food, anytime you read on a label, 2,3-diphosphatase, and you're like, what the hell is that?
If I can't pronounce it, I can't eat it.
Right? And then if you eat that, your body's going to be looking at this molecule going 2,3-diphosphatase. I don't know what to do with this. And it's going to stop that toxin in your fat cells. And if somebody is trying to lose weight and they're still importing toxins, there's no way the body is going to allow those fat cells to empty themselves because that's going to release too much toxins in circulation. So you have to be kind of meeting the person where they're at, but definitely stopping the importation of toxins, eating organic, clean water, pure air if we can. One of the things I remember when I bought my house is I was looking for high power lines, high voltage power lines. And I was like, I am not buying a house under these things because I was sensitive to electromagnetic fields like that. And so these are all, Wi-Fi, cell phones, things.
Yeah, I was just going to say, what about the 5G systems now that there's all kinds of people battling against it because now there's two different camps, right? One camp is saying it's going to revolutionize the way we communicate. Another camp is saying, sure, but there's not going to be anybody left over after all these waves finish us off. Where do you stand on that, the 5G?
Yeah, I don't know enough about it. All I've read were about the adversity for health that higher electromagnetic fields have on it's called electro smog, dirty electricity, that it disrupts the resonance of our cells and it creates inflammation, it creates blockages. So that is actually commonly known. So the more of that we add in our environment, I don't foresee this as very healthy. What's our power around this? I don't know.
And it is so hard to control. And something that Will hears me complain about very frequently. And it's like one of those instant things where you can see what stuff is doing to your body. Every time we go out to eat, every single time without fault, the next morning, my hands are so swollen, I can't get my rings off. I cook at home all the time. I don't try to not use salt. I use normal amount of salt, normal amount of everything. I mean, I do use organic produce and I try not to do processed foods and I'm fine. But we go out to eat, even if it's for lunch, the next day, poof, everything is just bloated and swollen and I'm achy. It happens every time.
That is so interesting. And it tells you how quickly the body responds, but it does that the other way too. How quickly it responds to removing an irritant or an aggressor or, a food that it doesn't agree with. Yeah, it's true. When we go to the restaurants, you don't know what they're putting in their food to make it taste better. So
I'll get on the scale and it's like 1.5 pounds. And I didn't eat that much stuff. And I'm like, that's fine. It'll be gone tomorrow. And sure enough.
Retaining water, sure.
I'm just bloated up.
Yeah. I would be curious if you were to ask if there is MSG, monosodium glutamate, in there. I know when I go to eat in restaurants with MSG, it just doesn't sit well with me at all. Digestively, cognitively, weird
Yeah.
dreams. Yeah.
Yes. So Karen and I did a detox, a cleanse. We've done it several times, and it's amazing. The first 2 days are torture, but then the third
Yeah.
day you have this energy, you feel great. This last time we tried it a few weeks ago, I felt great afterwards to the point where I didn't want to go back on coffee. I've limited my sugar intake tremendously, and I feel a lot better, but it's so hard. It's so difficult to maintain that lifestyle because of it's just everywhere, right? Sugar is in everything. You don't get enough sleep, so you wake up in the morning. You go, God, I need a cup of coffee to get me going. And after a while, it came a point where coffee wasn't doing. I could drink a pot of coffee and go right to sleep, right to bed without having a problem whatsoever. Now I drink a cup of coffee and I'm feeling the effects, but little by little, it's lessening, right? So we're talking a lot about that kind of stuff, about food and things like that. But is Ayurveda strictly a diet, or is there much more to it than just that?
There's much more to it than just that. So with Siddha Veda and Ayurveda, there's a saying that everything in nature can be a medicine or a poison, depending on your body type. So I love that you've been experimenting with cleanse, because the cleaner your body is, that, the times when you eat a little sugar here and there, you'll be able to metabolize it much faster than when you're kind of clogged up and dirty, if you will.
Yeah.
We just met. You already know me so well.
Inside out.
Ooh, I don't think that visual
The
is very
good, the
good.
bad, and the ugly.
Remember, I used to be an ER nurse, so body
Oh.
fluids are not an issue for me.
You've seen it all. Yeah, no doubt.
New joints, spitting. Yeah.
Oh, okay. This episode is brought to you by Yuck.
Well, it just tells you what happens behind the doors that we don't know.
Yeah.
But what's interesting with Ayurveda is you actually get to know your body type. So there is this thing that's called dosha.
Mhm.
There are 3 doshas. You might have heard about Vata, Pitta, and Kapha.
Mhm.
And most people have 2 predominance. Like me, I'm a Vata Pitta. Some people can be Pitta Kapha. Some people can be Tridosha, the 3 of them. And what's interesting about that is for each dosha, there are some food to avoid because they will aggravate that dosha. And there are food to go to because they will pacify the dosha. So when we talk about aggravating, is it throws your dosha out of balance. Let's say somebody who is the dosha Pitta. Pitta is very fire. So if that person eats very spicy food, you're adding fire to the fire. So they might have heartburn and they might have inflammation. And because for that person, that type of food will aggravate their dosha, right?
Mhm.
So there would be foods to eat to pacify that dosha. If somebody is, let's say, Vata, like me, Vata is air, it's cold, and usually the digestive fire is kind of intermittent. It's like you're constantly trying to feed it. It's sometimes too big, sometimes too small, sometimes it's wet. And so eating spicy food for a Vata person would be actually pacifying because it would bring warmth to warm up the cold Vata. So it really depends on each person's dosha.
Mhm.
The doshas are really amazing because they describe not only physical characteristics, like are you tall, are you thin, is your hair oily, but they also describe mental attributes. So it's so interesting because let's say somebody who is Vata, when the Vata is out of balance, the mental attributes will be anxiety, worry, versus if somebody is Pitta, who's very fiery, when they're out of balance, mentally they'll get angry, irritated, right? Kind of that type A personality.
Hmm.
So what's interesting about Ayurveda is it takes you on a self-discovery journey that somebody can guide you to discover that for yourself, but nobody can say, cookie cutter recipe, eat that, do this, and you'll be fine.
Mhm.
It's a very personalized approach based on your body type, your personality, your habits, and the foods that are going to be good for Will might not be good for Karen.
Mhm.
So
Well, you bring up a good point. How does the family deal with that then? Like Karen does the majority of our meal prep.
All of it.
Hmm. Anyway, but is she then, if I'm Vata and she's Pitta, she's going to have to make two separate meals for us, or is there a way to find some sort of common ground? Because
Exactly.
is that what you do? Okay,
You learn to cook.
Yeah.
I learned.
Learn to
I
cook.
learned. Right,
Yes.
right. Okay, lovely. So I'm going to lose a lot of weight.
So how do you find out what your dosha is? Is there like a questionnaire, or how does that work?
Yeah, there's quizzes online that you can fill. It's or you can use several books. Like I have books of Ayurvedic home remedies, and in there you have different characteristics. So it's pretty easy to find that for yourself. It's pretty straightforward. And then if you have symptoms and illnesses, the symptoms and the illnesses also contains the doshas. The doshas are kind of everywhere, basically. And so if there are imbalances, if a person is Pitta, but they have, let's say, bloated stomach, like a Vata would be, then you would balance the Vata in the stomach first, and then balance the Pitta if the Pitta is out of balance. That's, I mean, I'm still discovering all of that in depth myself. I just find it fascinating, the depth of information and the level of autonomy that somebody can have using this tool.
And so you said it's more than just food. Is there exercise involved in this?
Yes, there are several different lifestyle exercises. Oftentimes it'll be yoga poses for different doshas. If somebody has high blood pressure, what they can do. So with Siddha Veda, it's 5 things. It's food, it's home remedies, and home remedies are stuff you have in your kitchen. It's like little turmeric, little cumin, half a teaspoon of this and that. You boil it and you drink that. So home remedies are very powerful. Lifestyle, like the exercises, the yoga. Panchkarma, which is the detox program that somebody can do. Somebody can do 7 days. Somebody can do a whole month. But detoxing I think it's very important in modern world to do it regularly. And then the 5th one is marma. And marma is a little bit like acupressure. So it's
I was going to say, is it like jelly?
not Marmite.
It's begun.
Oh, no. I'm sorry. I'm marmalade. I'm sorry. I was just too close.
Marmalade.
I'm getting hungry. That's all it is.
All right. No, marma is actually pressing on places in your body, like a little bit like acupressure, that has direct access to your subconscious mind. So let's say you have a situation or a person that you're upset with. There is a marma that I love showing to my people, which is about forgive and forget. So it's on your left hand, and it's kind of in that triangle between your thumb and your index. And you go in there and you find the spot that's painful. And there's going to be one in there. And as you massage that spot, you did, yeah. So as you massage that spot, you think about the person and the situation, and you can say, I forgive you, I forget. And you kind of just let it go and you breathe through it until the point no longer hurts. And I've had people just cry and feel so liberated of like things they were holding on for so long, because this is a direct access to your subconscious mind.
Wow.
There's plenty of different marmas like this. It's incredible. Kids with ADHD to help them concentrate. And there's just so many things with direct access to the subconscious mind.
So many questions. Oh my gosh. This is going to be a lot longer episode than I thought at the beginning, because there's so many different avenues to go down.
I know.
So going back to the food real fast first before we take off on the other direction, but you know how sometimes your body craves like, man, I'm in the mood for a banana. I really need a banana. Is that your body's way of telling you that you're missing certain nutrients? That's kind of what I heard. Is that true?
It can be true. Again, it depends on the person. It can be your body telling you that there's an imbalance and it's craving the food that will bring it back to balance. But it can also be your body being out of balance, no longer knowing what its balanced state is and craving the food that is bringing it more out of balance. So it depends how you are on the spectrum and what kind of symptoms you're showing and or illnesses. But definitely it's an indicator of something.
So why don't Western medical doctors ascribe to this kind of thing? I mean, if this indeed, and we'll talk about some success stories here in a minute, but you hear about all these they seem miraculous recoveries of certain things. I know you can't claim anything, right? We're not trying to get anybody in trouble, but if this stuff, and this stuff's been, like to your point, been used for 4,000 or 5,000 years, and these people are living 135 years, for example, why is the Western world going, la, 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 I don't hear
Big
anything?
pharma.
Is that what it is?
I think so.
Well, if you think about how Western medicine was born, it's a medicine of emergency. It's a medicine of war triage. Going into the war zone, is this person risk-capable? We got to plug the artery. Like, earlier when we were talking about plugging the energy leaks, I'm thinking ER room, arteries pissing, and we plug in the artery. So basically, the Western medicine paradigm is based on emergency services. So that's why they excel at emergency and surgery. If you break a leg, you want to have an orthopedic surgeon repair you, right? And so what happened, I don't want to get into the politics of Western medicine, but at the end of the 1800s, there were a few people who went around all of the universities in North America, and they closed off every university that was teaching homeopathy, naturopathy, chiropractic, any form of what's called alternative complementary medicine. And they only kept open the schools that would teach surgery, radiation, chemotherapy, and drug, industrial drug therapies.
Wow.
And so this has been the heritage that we came through. And anything else has been kind of demonized as quackery. And it is now through the will of the people. People are tired of being prescribed a pill to fart to the right and the pill to fart to the left, which is what I felt like I was doing.
What if you want to fart straight forward?
There's no pill for that.
Okay, Karen, we finally reached a point where I never thought I'd reach in our show. We're talking about fart.
I know. This is your nirvana, isn't it?
I'm kind of digging it. That's all I'm going to say.
Well, I think personally it's about money, because doctors and hospitals and pharma, they're not going to make money if people are just using food to make themselves healthy. They can't charge, $500 for an aspirin in the hospital or whatever if the person doesn't need it because they're eating extra, cabbage.
But that seems almost criminal.
It
right?
is. It is criminal. And there have been people that have gotten in trouble for that. Like the guy that, I don't remember, didn't he up the AIDS medication by 500% or something crazy? Remember there was that big scandal?
Yes, a young man who purchased the pharmaceutical company that created that drug and then increased it by a ridiculous amount of percentage points, saying that they needed it to make improvements to a pill that was already perfectly fine as far as everything.
Yeah.
So
exactly. Pharmaceutical companies are businesses who create clients, just like any business. And so if you want to create a client that's loyal, you have to keep him at a certain level of functioning while not being fully recovered.
Well, I went to the doctor about the swelling thing that I was telling you about with the hands. And he said, well, I can give you something that will stop the swelling, but it's going to make you constipated. So then I'll give you something for that. And I'm like, no, I want to find out why am I swelling?
Exactly.
I switched doctors.
And that's where Catherine comes in.
Yes.
Yes. And it's through people like you who have a desire to go to the root cause. And I remember being a nurse practitioner prescribing things for which I knew I was not addressing the root cause, but the structure of the medical system was not allowing me to go to the root cause.
Mhm.
And so that's why I stepped out of the medical field and I started to do what I'm doing, because if you don't address the cause, to me, it's like just putting a new icing on a cake that's rotting, you know?
Yes, absolutely.
So if someone wants to get into the Siddha Veda or Ayurveda lifestyle, I mean, there's very little that I saw that I found. Like, for example, my insurance company won't pay for Ayurvedic treatments. So how does someone go about finding someone that will help them with that? Because I could take quizzes all day long, but they're not really very helpful for me. So how does someone go about learning what they need to know about this stuff?
Well, definitely, it's like anything in life. The more educated you are, the more empowered you are, and the more you can self-advocate. Ultimately, I think we've been used to a system of care reimbursement, and blah. I'm from the social medicine in Canada and all that. Um, and ultimately, it's each and every one of us responsibility to take care of ourselves
Mhm.
and to, I find that natural um, modalities are more affordable. And in the end, if you think about investing in your health and let's say eating organic and all that, it might cost you a little bit more now, but I see it as a savings for later because you won't have to pay for drugs and expensive surgeries and whatever procedures. So if someone is resonating with the modality of Ayurveda, there's plenty of Ayurvedic practitioners out there who can help. I think the key in there is personalized medicine.
Mhm.
And it's one thing to take a book, and I was going to suggest this one book from Dr. Clint Rogers, Ancient Secrets of a Master Healer, and this is where he's talking about Dr. Naram. This is how I got to know about Siddha Veda. There's amazing marmas in there for immune system, for high blood pressure, for better sleep. There are recipes for one of the best detox foods ever, which is the mung bean soup. It balances all three doshas. Doesn't matter who you are, what you got. It's really a wonderful. I just had it tonight. I made it tonight. There's other recipes for tea that will help your immunity and things like that. So it's a great start
Wow.
to read this book.
So the recipes, I know some I've seen can you see some of these ingredients that you've never heard of, and they might be hard to find. I mean, are there recipes that just have stuff the average Joe would have in their kitchen, or do you have to go to specialty shops or online to find most of the or a lot of the ingredients?
A lot of it is spices,
Mhm.
and I've had to kind of up level a little bit my kitchen. But once you've got the spices, it's just like instead of having your regular garlic powder, you just have mustard seeds, or you've got um, turmeric or cumin. So it's getting acquainted with the things, especially the spices, because otherwise it's mostly vegetables. In Ayurveda, most recipes are vegetarian. I eat meat because my body needs it, but some people find benefits of not eating that.
Hmm.
So it's really if this is something that you resonate with, it's looking at one recipe, getting the ingredients for that one, and then practicing doing that recipe, which is kind of what I started with a few years ago. And then you add on different things. I find the spices online. Amazon is great.
Mhm.
Some people go to Indian markets. I've ordered these big bags of mung beans. Mung beans they're a type of legume. They're very healing. They're very nutritious. And I was, taking a lot of them. So I found this online store and I got this 25-pound bag of mung beans and I ordered 3 of them. And so I've got my stack of mung bean for a whole year. It's great.
Use them as pillows.
Yeah.
It's a good point. Anytime you flex a muscle for the first time, it's painful, but the more
Mhm.
you flex it, the easier,
Yes.
less painful it will become. So that's a great point. So I'm dying to hear some of the stories that you have that you can grace us with about successes that people have had through the changing of their lifestyle like this.
Yes. Well, like you said earlier, Will, just going on a cleanse can have tremendous effects. And I remember leading a group a few years ago on a 14-day cleanse. And it was incredible that after even 1 week, of just removing the foods that are common irritators for people that they don't know. That, and we're talking gluten, dairy, sugar, certain nightshades like eggplant, bell peppers. Um, Anyways, it's, the recipes are all done, and the program is all done for you. Within 1 week, I had one person who said, "Oh my gosh, I can fit in my pants. I'm no longer bloated." Another person who's a massage therapist had swelling in her hands to the extent that she had thought about changing career. And she was like, "Wow, my hands have regained, like, the swelling is gone and I'm no longer in pain and I can enjoy giving people massages again." In that group, I had a yoga teacher who was saying like, "Hey, I do yoga every day, but since I've been on this cleanse, I feel like such a higher level of joy and presence." And he does yoga every day. And he was already eating healthy, but sometimes it's just a little tweak. It's a small hinge that will open a big door for you. There's, of course, the weight loss that happens when most of weight is not just fat that you put on. A lot has to do with inflammation. And inflammation can be from foods that trigger you. It can be from stress. It can be from toxic thoughts that create inflammation in your body. So it definitely is an all-encompassing thing, not just food. But I've had clients who unexpectedly lost some weight. Actually, one of my clients who did this cleanse, she was on hypertensive medication. And she was like, "Wow, my feet came back to a normal size to the point that I'm losing my shoes. And I did not know they were so swollen." And she had to go to her doctor to decrease the dosage of medication. And she was eating pretty healthy, but it was like a total revelation for her. And she had glaucoma in her eyes. So having proper eye pressure is important. So controlling high blood pressure. So it was just this whole discovery for her.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you mentioned a 14-day cleanse. The cleanse that Karen and I did was 3 days. So it's a little, little wimpy little cleanse. But this one consisted of juicing a lot of things like celery, kale, spinach. And there's different recipes you do, one for breakfast, one for lunch, one for dinner, that kind of thing. And you go for 3 days with just this juicing diet that helps you cleanse for the most part. This 14-day cleanse, you mentioned removing gluten and nightshades and sugar and that kind of stuff. Is it like a juicing thing, or do you just eliminate certain foods and you stick to others? That's the kind of cleanse that you're talking about? Because I don't know if I could last 14 days on this juice cleanse.
No.
I gotta choose something.
No, I would need real food as well. The juice would just go straight through me, like, come on, I need substance.
When it does.
Well,
it does.
No, the 14-day cleanse is actually through foods. It's actually impressive how just removing a few irritants and perhaps adding new foods that you didn't know about or you didn't know that you would like. Oftentimes, the difficulty we have with change is we feel the anticipated loss of something that we like, but we forget to look at what we're going to gain. Right. And so what we do in these cleanses or programs is actually bring in new stuff that is exciting while letting go of the old stuff. And soon enough, it's like, you don't crave it. A lot of people on the cleanse are telling me, "You know what? I haven't had sugar in 14 days and I don't even feel like it. I smell it. It's like, ooh, it's too sweet." So sometimes I tell them, I was sick with Lyme disease in 2016, and that's a whole other chapter. But it was a chronic Lyme I didn't know I had for 16 years in my body, and it just all erupted in 2016. And so I had to do radical changes in my life, change a career, let go of my partner, a change of foods. And for 10 months, I went on a strict ketogenic diet. So that meant no bread, no flour, no pasta, no rice, no fruit. I was eating meat and vegetables 3 times a day.
That sounds like no
fun. At the end, I was like, "Nah." But after 10 months, I tell you what, the next time I bit into a strawberry, whoa, it's like all of my sugar receptors in my mouth had a complete reset. So now they were so much more present that I needed half of a strawberry to have the sugar fulfillment. So what happens is we eat so much sugar that our receptors get numb. And so we need more to taste it. And if you give yourself like a cold turkey, just kind of cut it off for a while, then you reset your receptor sensitivity so that now you start tasting it again and you don't need as much of a dose to taste it.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any helpful hints for someone who wants to move in that direction, get rid of sugar, for example, but it's an addiction? Sugar is an addictive substance. Any helpful hints to someone like me who loves sugar but wants to let it go?
Yes. First of all, any change is going to be uncomfortable. The only human beings that like to change is a baby with a wet diaper.
I love that.
So if we start with that premise, then we just kind of normalize that it's going to be uncomfortable at some point. You got to be, when you're wanting to make that change, you got to know why you're making the change and really why underneath the why, like what's important to you that you want to make that change. If you want to have more energy, more mental clarity, what is that going to bring you? What is that going to do in your life? And so when you get to a strong why, maybe, I can ask you, Will, like, what is that going to bring you to cut down on the sugar?
For me, overall, better health. I do have a condition that I've been diagnosed with that I'm looking into alternate types of treatments to help with that kind of thing. I think sugar is part of the toxicity that's caused this diagnosis, for example. So I think cutting it down, reducing it drastically will help. That's why I'm following down this Ayurvedic path, because I'm curious. I'm curious about functional medicine. I'm curious about all the different natural homeopathic remedies out there that don't include surgery.
Totally. I get it. And so with better health, what is important about having better health for you?
Well, I have an 11-year-old daughter. I can keep up with her. So yes, more energy, better overall sense of feeling better, I think.
She wants to say something?
No. You have a wife?
Yeah. I think that was implied in all the conversations.
That life insurance policy, baby.
There you go. And so what are you going to do with all that health and energy? What is that going to allow you to do that right now, or if you continue down that path, will not allow you to do?
I think have more life experiences. Travel, be outdoors, go hiking, go swimming, do all of that stuff that we've not done.
Yeah. And when you have all of these life experiences, you're filling your life with all these moments and these memories. What will that bring for you?
Joy.
Have you met my advocate?
Yes, very good, effective team. So the point of this is I'm helping you dig to a deeper why so that you get so fueled up about this why that you get more committed to your vision and your desires than the taste of sugar.
Wow.
If that makes sense.
That's a lot to get. Wow. If you look at it that way, yeah, the taste of sugar versus joy of life and experiences and love and memories.
Spending better time with my family, my wife, my daughter, my niece, my nephew, myself. Yeah, absolutely.
There you go. And oftentimes with sugar, there's an emotional component to it. So what I tell people is when, let's say you're about to eat something that is not really optimal for you, but you're really kind of going for it, you have to pause and ask yourself, how do I feel? What do I need? Oftentimes, it's an underlying feeling and an underlying unmet need that pushes us to go to the substance, go to the sugar, because it gives you that immediate, especially with sugar, it'll give you that immediate calm down of the nervous system because you're producing serotonin in your gut. And if you were feeling bored, anxious, worried, it'll immediately calm you down. So it's a temporary solution to a deeper problem or a deeper emotion that you're trying to avoid, but it's a temporary solution that brings problems down the way, like bigger problems down the line. So if you stop yourself and ask yourself, how do I feel? What do I need? And you're being really honest with yourself. And then it's giving yourself what you need. It's just using a new strategy. So if somebody's feeling anxious, what do I need? I need to feel comfort. Okay, so one strategy is sugar out of infinite possibilities of strategies. So can we find another strategy that will bring a sense of comfort? Might not bring it as quickly as sugar does, but it's to identify the underlying need and the underlying feeling so that you can fulfill that need and not go for the substance. Does that make sense?
It does. But what if you really need a donut?
Nobody needs a donut.
I don't know. I don't know. It's hard to pass by a donut and not to take a bite out of it for me. I don't know if anybody else.
Well, it's the thing with nutrients, right? With proteins, there are essential amino acids, which are the smallest units of protein. With fat, there are essential fatty acids, which are the smallest units of fat. But with carbohydrates or sugar, there are no essential carbohydrates. Our brain needs sugar and glucose to function, but you can derive that from fat or from protein or from the carbohydrates, the the complex carb, but there are no essential carb. So that's why I said nobody needs a donut.
You tell that to my ego or my whatever.
I love her. I love you.
I love the two of you. I love how you operate.
So if someone wants to, again, follow this path, is there like ayurvedarus.com or something? I don't think that there is. I could be wrong because I haven't really looked down that path very carefully. But I don't know if in our area there is someone that fills that need. So if you're in a Ayurvedic desert, is there someplace else you can go to find these things?
So true.
I know that there are many practitioners online that will do video consultations like
that's what we need to
this.
hear. Perfect.
Yeah.
That's what I need to hear.
And the institute that I'm learning with, they are based in India, in Mumbai. It's called the Ayushakti Clinic. So it's spelled AYUSHAKTI. And it's Ayushakti in Mumbai. And if you want, I can send you a link to put in the show notes to book a consultation with a Vaidya practitioner. It's about half an hour and it's like $20 US.
Oh, yes, please do.
Yes.
Please do. We'll add that to the show notes in case anyone listening wants to do that. I know I'm going to. The minute you send me that link, I'm there because I've been looking for this for quite a while. And I'm sure a lot of people who are listening have been as well, because it's just not easy to know where to start. This might be a perfect place.
Yeah, absolutely. And because I am a student through their institute, I have the privilege of following up with patients, with clients. And so if, we want to keep in contact, that would be something really amazing to do.
That would be fantastic.
Sounds
Yes.
wonderful. Absolutely.
And before you go, do you, we have been talking a lot about the foods. Do you have a cookbook that you would recommend for someone who's just starting into, getting into these recipes? Is there one that you kind of started with that might be like a diving in sort of situation?
There is one, Sacred and Delicious by Lisa Joy Mitchell. And so Sacred and Delicious. What's fun about the books in Ayurveda is they will have recipes that will have a little V next to it, or a P, or a Ka, a K for kapha. So it tells you which recipe will help to pacify each dosha and which dosha should not eat that. And so when you know your body type and the kind of dosha that your illness is, it helps to direct the choice of recipes to try.
That sounds wonderful. We're going to add links to that book as well as the one that you mentioned earlier on, The Ancient Secrets of the Master. We'll add those links directly on our show notes. So if you're interested in getting either of those books, you can go directly to our show notes and find the links there. It'll take you directly to that page of Amazon.
I was just ordering it on Amazon right now.
Love it.
And we'll also add all of your social media links and websites and all that kind of stuff. Any means of reaching out to you, Catherine, we're going to add in our show notes. So if you're listening to the show on your phone, just hit that little info button. It'll take you directly to the place where you can click the link and get you direct contact with Catherine. It has been so eye-opening and so wonderful to have an opportunity to talk to you about this stuff. It's been so fun.
Thank you. It's been so great to be with the two of you and discuss all things, health and body and
This has been great. Thanks so much for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
And thank you for coming along on this journey of discovery. You know someone that would benefit from hearing the messages we shared on this episode or any of our others? Well, we'd really love it if you would do them a favor and share the show with them. It's super easy and you might just help change someone's life. And if you're listening to this on the radio and missed anything, not to worry. All of our shows, including this one, can be found at skepticmetaphysician.com, where you can also watch the videos or even send us email or voicemails directly from the site. We absolutely love feedback and would appreciate hearing from you. You can also find all the show notes directly on that website, so that if you want to reach out to Catherine or find those books, you can find those links directly there if you're not on your phone. Well, we hope that you've enjoyed this episode as much as we have. That's all for now, but we'll see you on the next episode of The Skeptic Metaphysicians. Until then, take care.